IVM.
You're listening to Storytellers and Storytellers. This is Vineet Kanabar live on tape for IVM Podcasts. The real world has been modified by computers ever since these complex machines were invented. From computing to remembering, computers and code have completely changed the way we interact with our world. In recent years, especially with smartphones, our realities come with an added layer, mixing technology to create experiences that range from educative, informative, and entertaining. We call this augmented reality. And to talk about these tech-enabled interfaces that are taking over our world, I'm very glad to be joined by my friend Hardik Shah, one of the most tech-forward people I know, and also someone who has the most smashing gin collection in the country. Someone who truly understands how technology makes every little aspect of our professional and personal lives better if we learn how to implement it with intent. Hi Hardik, welcome to Storytellers and Storysellers.
Hey Vineet, thank you very much for having me here.
I think this is one of those episodes that I am excited to learn from the guest that's on the show, because every time I meet you, you have something cool to share. The last time Hardik and I met was just outside my office when he was there for some meeting, and I was just coming in, and on a side chat, he introduced me to my first Snap Goggle experience, and that was a revelation in itself. As we speak right now, he has a pair of Snap Goggles
Those
on.
are called spectacles, Snap spectacles.
Yeah, it's just a sort of small example of how tech forward Hardik really is. Hardik, to get this conversation started, like I said, I know you as a master of many, many things, right? We met first when you were at a company called Videogram. Now you do some very, very cool stuff with Superfan. You're like the Swiss Army knife of technocrats. But for my listeners, can you tell us what it is that you do currently?
So I run a lot of operations at Superfan Studios. Superfan has been a pioneer in AR. Ever since the first versions of AR started to happen on Facebook and then onto Instagram. We are the creative partners for Snapchat, and I'm one of the 150 official lens creators for Snapchat. So, from an AR perspective, we breathe it every day, every night. We really think about, if we see an object, we think, okay, what is it that we'll do in AR with that? We are making careers out of AR. We are making careers out of virtual reality as well. So there's a lot of things happening in that side of the world. And with all this COVID thing happening right now, I believe AR is here to stay, and something that, people are going to see more and more of it, especially now with the new iPads that have been launched. They have the LiDAR cameras.
Right.
Believe me, it's going to change a lot of things in the AR world.
And that's very exciting for me. I remember my first AR application that we developed together for Tripling Season 2 was something very cool, something I'm very, very proud of, something that I share with pretty much everyone I meet. We had the AR filter there, allowed people to simulate being in the car with the Trio, and we had music overlays in it, and you could change the track. It was like sitting in a car there and changing the stereo on the car itself. So super excited to talk about your career in AR. But before we get there, I think it's important that we understand what AR really is, and there's an entire spectrum, right? It's not just AR. There's like you said, MR, XR, LR, maybe listening reality. So can you help me understand or explain to me, like a 5-year-old, what is this sort of tech reality continuum that we speak of?
So, AR and VR are interchangeably used a lot many times, like UI and UX.
Right.
However, they are two very, very different things. AR is essentially augmenting a real world. VR is actually, it's replacing the real world. That's the bigger difference between AR and VR. So, for example, in AR, let's say if you have a table, you could put a Coke bottle onto the table. But
Right.
if you are in VR, you really do not even have the table, but yet you can put a table out there as well as the Coke bottle out there.
Right. You can create the entire room.
You can create that entire room for that matter. So, so you are in that thing. And then there is this very fantastic thing which Microsoft has launched called HoloLens, which is actually mixed reality. Right? Where yourself can be a part in a virtual world as well. So
Right.
there is AR, there is VR, there is mixed reality. There is also something called as XR, where XR is something which evolves with time. Think
Right.
of XR as, when we were having a talk, we could be connected on Zoom together, but we are doing a podcast on something else, and there could be an augmented version of the podcast, and that could be the listening reality, for example, or LR, or
Right.
it could be
Right.
a term, right? So that X is something which keeps on changing, but that's the bigger idea of what AR is. It's very fantastic. It really opens up a lot of creative stuff. It really opens up a lot of worlds for you.
And I love it. I think it's a great mixture of technology, creativity, enterprise, platform, experience. So much comes together, right? I remember reading the one of the very early applications of AR was to help technicians figure out where to actually drill the holes in the fuselage of an aircraft. Right? It was a headset that was created to point out where exactly, and this was about late 80s, early 90s, and from then on, about 30 years from then, it's moved on in a big way, right? It's been a buzzword for the last few years, and now I see more and more applications happen in the real world, in with consumer facing companies, with entertainment companies. What are some of the coolest applications that you've seen with AR specifically?
From my perspective, because we work a lot with Bollywood, I think Bollywood has really started using AR across all their movie marketing. And I'll give you a very simple example. And this is for a lot of Indian audiences, and they would know about this. So we worked on a movie called Dabangg.
Right.
It's one of the biggest Bollywood movies to get released. A lot of fan following. The team came back and said, we want to do something in AR. Let's think about an idea of what it is, right? In a normal scenario, what somebody will do with AR is, try and make it as complex as possible, try and add a lot of wow features to it, and that's something that they want to they want to take it to the next level, is what essentially everybody will look at. Make more elements,
Right.
make it as complex as possible, add a lot of elements so that it looks larger than life. But when we looked at the trailer of the movie before it was released, obviously, there was this very interesting scene of the lead actor. He wearing a Ray-Ban type glasses, which are aviators. And
Right.
one of the shot in the trailer was he tilts his head up a little. The glasses move, or the aviators move away from his eyes. They swirl on the top of the head and go back, on his shirt
Yeah,
at the,
behind his
at the
collar.
behind the neck, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was something that really stood out. So we said, why not flip it around? What we would do is we would, then we came up with the concept of we'll try and recreate that entire thing, where if you nod the head, you would have the aviators on your eyes. You nod the head, the glasses would swirl up in the sky, and instead of going at the back of your neck, it would actually go back and come back onto your eyes. It was only that much. It was a 5 second experience,
Right.
5 to 6 second experience, but it was only that. And when we released it out, I mean, within the first 24 hours, we already had 10 million impressions of that, right? 10
It's
million people
insane.
actually trying it out, right? But
Right.
uh,
Did the actor in question himself also try it out?
so the actor in question tried it out. It is still available on his Instagram, on his Instagram profile. So you can go onto his
Right.
Instagram profile and still try it out. It's available with all the lead actors on their own profiles. They all tried it out. In fact, there were news articles, like a proper news articles of how everybody has become Dabang or Chulbul Pandey with that AR.
Right.
So there were these literally live news televisions, not a blog, not a newspaper, but news TV actually carrying
Right.
it out. And surprisingly, there are a lot of YouTube videos available now on how to use the filter or the lens, which are in all regional languages. So it
Oh
would
wow.
it connected so much with the audience that it was really fun to work in. One of the most interesting things that you should do really when you think of AR is you are more engaged in AR if there is a lot of audio into it, if there's some audio into it, if there are some sounds into it. Like, when the sunglasses go up, we do have a zoom, 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 that kind of
Yeah.
sound happening, right? Which means that,
Right.
it's really turning around. Imagine if the sound was not there, the experience would be completely different.
Absolutely.
So from that perspective, I think it's really important that when you are doing something which is AR, you try and keep it as simple as possible. That's a recommendation always. Very simple, right? Even when we did tripling, right, it was so intuitive. You are in the car, you obviously see a Winamp type jukebox or
Right.
a player, and because you see it out there, you will be keen on hitting the buttons of play, pause, rewind, forward, and the music would
Yeah.
happen that way, right? So it should say it all.
No, I think that made a lot. That makes a lot of sense. I think the immersive quality of storytelling that AR brings out really allows people to live the entertainment that they're consuming, right? And that's what we tried to do with tripling as well. I remember we had 3 backgrounds. I think we had 4 music
Music
tracks
tracks.
and the feature where you could scan yourself into the car and sit with Sumit, Manvi, and Amol and record yourself driving somewhere. Even with this one, the Chulbul Pandey example that you gave me, I think everybody who ever saw Dabang wanted to be Chulbul Pandey, at least, if not forever, for at least 5 seconds. And you're enabling that. I think
Yes.
that's the most beautiful part. Let me ask you this, right? I've been part of AR pitches or AR discussions for a while now, but it was only with Instagram and Facebook camera really coming in that distribution really picked up, right? What do you think are the possibilities of AR outside of these two? Have you seen anything cool happen beyond Instagram and Facebook?
Oh, yes, there's a lot of cool things happening with Snapchat. The demo which we really did a little while ago before we started the call, right? Now, what I could do
Yeah,
is on my video calls, whenever I'm in my office video calls, I could really have AR experiences on those video calls. No, I am
right,
not saying these are Zoom backgrounds or some background changing, but these are live AR experiences. The same Dabang AR. Imagine going into a meeting where I'm supposed to pitch AR to somebody, and I just show them a live example. I think I've won
right.
50% of the battle, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody understands that when you are out for pitching, you have to have a good story. AR helps you enable pitching that story out. It helps you
Right.
visualize that story.
And I love it. I love. I know we've been talking about the Zoom AR filters and the live experience that I just got before we started talking with the ghost and your face really morphing into the booth filter. That was very cool, man. And I can totally relate stepping into a meeting like that where people are like, dude, forget everything else. How did you do that? Tell me how you did that.
That's the conversation that eventually happens, and from a serious meeting, it becomes a meeting where everybody really says that okay, everybody of us is human. We are a little goofy. We can go into meetings with something like that, and it's okay. I think it breaks a lot of ice. It breaks a lot of ice. Believe me, it does that. And your meetings, instead of being 1 hour longer, actually you can wind up your meetings in 30 minutes.
So that
Yeah.
that's the ultimate benefit, right? I mean, forget the experience. If it's shortening my meetings, I'm going to try this. But and I will as soon as I have admin access on my office laptop, I'm going to try this out for a meeting as well. Tell me this, Hardik. I know. I know you for a few years now. I know you as the guy, as the Xbox guy. I think all of Twitter knows you as the Xbox guy, and then as the Jin guy, and now as so much more, right? Can you tell us and tell my listeners how you ended up in AR? Where did you start? Where did this pivot happen for you?
Okay, so very interesting story around it. I started my career back in Microsoft. Okay, I did a few roles there, and then the latest role in Microsoft was being a part of the Xbox business, where back in those days Xbox was just not a gaming console; it was your entertainment device. What you
Right,
see Alexa doing right now, or what you see Siri doing right now, Xbox used to do it back then. The entire home automation system would happen via Xbox. Obviously
right,
not via voice, but it would happen on a click of a button. Your it was a DVD player. Then it became a Blu-ray player. It had a digital out. It had HD. It had the latest HDMI and all of it, right? So that is where a lot of things around consumerization of product is where I got the inroads into that. While that was
Right.
happening, one of the other earlier projects, before Xbox that I worked on was something called as sunsilkgangofgirls.com. It
Right.
was one of the biggest projects at that point of time, where there were this virtual gang of girls. They had their own groups. They used to talk to each other. There were message boards. There was Messenger, MSN Messenger back in those days. There was blogging called Windows Live Spaces. All of that was powered by MSN in those days. So, and that was my first tryst with media storytelling, and how people relate to it. While all of this was happening, I moved to Videogram, where in Videogram we would tell not what is trending, from a video perspective, but we would actually tell what is trending inside the video. So
Right.
imagine you are watching an India-Pakistan cricket match, and you are watching the video from India. What you would want to see from India would be completely different than what somebody watching in Pakistan would be. However,
Right.
when we are served the videos, we are only served one single thumbnail, and that thumbnail doesn't really do justice at what is inside the video. You could have a Shah Rukh Khan thumbnail of the video, but when you really play it, it's a Kamal R Khan song which gets played, right? And you see the irony, right? Back in
Right.
those days, when people wanted to gather views, they would go at a trailer launch event, and then upload videos saying that trailer launched. And then, in a very small, and in the description, they would write trailer launch event. Now, you would wait for that entire 1 hour to finish off to figure out where is the trailer, but the trailer would
And it
only come
wasn't.
out at 4 o'clock and not before that, right? So, there
Yeah.
was, and with Videogram, we are trying to solve that problem of saying that no, we will show you exactly what is inside the video and not what the
Right.
title is, not what the description is. We went ahead and developed something where, if you are a Bollywood fan again, and I say Bollywood because that's one industry which innovates a lot.
Right.
If you're watching Sholay as a movie and you just want to listen to Kitne Aadmi The as a dialogue, there has to be a mechanism where you search for Kitne Aadmi The. And,
Right.
when you click onto it, it actually takes you inside the entire movie. It gets automatically fast forwarded to where the dialogue is, where it says Kitne Aadmi The, and it plays from there because it understands what it is. Another example, right? Everybody's seen Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. There is a song called Balam Pichkari. Now, if I ask you a simple question of how many times does Balam Pichkari appear in that one song, there's no idea you would
Right.
know it, right? But
Right.
with one of the things which we did with Videogram is we would type Balam Pichkari, and it would take us to all the 5 points wherever Balam Pichkari is uttered. And when we would
Right.
click onto that thumbnail, the video will start from that point onwards.
Wow.
So, you would go right into that. And, while that was all happening, that was really, really fascinating to it. AR suddenly happened because of Snapchat actually changing the entire UI and making it a camera
Right.
first thing, right? That's my first
Right.
tryst with AR. Yes, I use Snapchat, and I'm very proud to say that I use Snapchat.
And you should be.
With Snapchat, one of the things people think Snapchat is gone, it's dead, but believe me, Snapchat is the one who is pioneering AR a lot. One
Right.
of the projects that we are working on, or is taking a lot of murals across the city, and when you bring your Snapchat camera on it, those murals come to life, right?
That's amazing.
You could have a logo of say IVM podcast, and as soon as somebody scans that logo, it could actually show up all the 5 latest podcasts which are available on the website. That's
I'm
the
going to tell Amit Doshi that right away.
that's the that's the power of AR, and that is what a lot of people are innovating it. The very interesting thing. So it's not that Facebook doesn't do a lot of it, right? One of the very interesting features which is on available on Facebook and Instagram is that it listens to music, or it listens to audio at the background. And one of the things that you can do is, based on the audio, you can actually change how your filter reacts. So let's say if you have a high tempo audio, you, instead of slicing your AR into, say, one single 9 by 16, I could take that 9 by 16 and I could break it into, say, 8 parts.
Right.
If the tempo goes down, instead of 8 parts, there are only 2 parts. So you
Right.
could do a lot of those things with AR.
And
Uh,
these things can happen on the fly, or like they
this
can
is
be
on the fly.
programmed.
This is on the fly. So
Right.
if you're using Instagram Live, which I believe a lot of people are doing it at 5 o'clock every day. I don't know why.
Every day.
I don't know
Yeah.
why at
And 5
five
o'clock
o'clock.
every day is happening to you
Yeah,
as well,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
5
yeah.
o'clock.
5 o'clock every day. I don't know why. I don't know
Yeah.
what is the logic behind it. But if you're using Instagram Live, I really, really recommend that you guys, everybody who's listening to this, please, please, please try out all the Instagram Live filters. That's going to make your content a lot more interesting. Spend some time discovering all your filters. Spend something which you would like, which your audience would like, and then go on Instagram Live and then see, how big a difference it makes to you.
It definitely does. My wife has started using a lot of these filters just to interact with her friends on Instagram, and it's a revelation to me as well. And there's some that are really whimsical. There are some that are really artful. There's some that are just out of this world, man. You look at some of the creators on Instagram as well, and on Snap for that matter, are people who just make these amazing filters, man. I think they're the most underrated creators that there are. While we have the fashion and the comics and the music guys and the gamers doing their thing, there's this like core group of creators who are making filters, the 150 that you're part of as well. Let me ask you this. How did you prepare for this career, right? It's kind of at the cusp of technology, entrepreneurship, creativity. And how did you prepare when you were, say, moving from Microsoft to Videogram and then over to Superfan? What were the sort of mindset changes? How did you prepare to take on this sort of leading edge new media career?
One of the biggest learning that Superfan has given me, and that's again thanks to this very fantastic person I know, Snehal, who is also the
It was
founder,
amazing. Yeah,
of Superfan, is to say that you don't have to do anything which is complex. Believe me,
right,
that is the simplest of learning, right? uh, that's one thing, right? Whenever and the other learning which helped me prepared for something like this is to say that your customers will come back and say they want to create something which is similar to a competition.
right,
You don't have to buy into that always. You have to
right.
ask them what is their end goal. uh, you know
Copycat
s-
behaviors.
yeah, what is their end goal, right? If their end goal, if somebody comes and tells me that my end goal is to get 1 million views, that's a fantastic end goal. I would love
Right,
it. How do you want to get that views, right? And I'll give you something that I also tell a lot of people. If you're playing the view game, then the recommendation is to do that either on Snapchat AR or on Facebook,
right.
because these are the only two platforms where you can do media spends and buy impressions of the first thing that somebody would watch when they open up the AR camera. If you do it on Instagram, it's not going to happen, right?
Because Instagram discovery is a lot more organic in that
Yeah,
way.
it's only organic. There's no way to get paid discovery, right? So see, one of the things which happens on Snapchat is whenever a brand builds a filter, lens out on Snapchat, they are able to buy the space as the first carousel on Snap, and that
Right,
will make sure that anybody who opens up the app, the first thing that they will see is that brand's AR experience. The
right,
same happens now with Facebook, but it's a different way on Facebook. So Facebook has something called as AR as an ad, where
right.
it's available for a lot of e-com folks. One of the experiences that we built for a company called MyGlam was you try on makeup, and whenever you are trying on makeup, if you like a particular color, you can hit the buy button and you are taken to the cart which has already added that stuff.
You're talking about how certain color can be picked up and you can point at a certain color
Certain
and
color, yes. So
yeah,
whatever you are trying on is exactly what you will buy. It's not like when you
right.
hit that buy now button, you are taken to the entire bigger shop and then you have to figure out what the shade is there. That's the big difference. So right now, from an ad, when you click on an ad, the way it works is you click a button, you are taken to the entire e-com shop, say t-shirt, and then within t-shirt you will have to go and you will have to search the product that you want to buy. With AR as an ad, you are trying on that t-shirt, and when you hit the buy button, you are exactly taken to that particular item, and which can already be added into your shopping cart. It's very interesting, right? Shopify has gone ahead and started implementing 3D slash AR into their stores now. So these
Right.
guys are also moving into that direction. I see a lot of change coming out there.
No, I think that's the key to even further mass adoption, and I'll come to talk about mass adoption in a second. But how big is the team now then at Superfan?
We are about 13 of us out here. We just opened up our offices in the US. We
Congratulations.
thank you, and we are my because that is where a lot of innovation also happens. That is where we also get a lot of how do you say? If you have to innovate, you have to be in India. If you have to make revenue, you have to be in the US.
Absolutely. I think that's a inside startup
Yeah,
principle in this
that
case.
is what it is, right? So yeah,
Right.
so I think you really have to throw everything that you've learned probably out of the window, out of the door, everywhere. If you have to get into AR,
Right.
there is not a chance that you can say this is not possible in AR. There is
Right.
always something which is possible in AR. What Salman Khan was doing was actually shot in VFX, which can be taken into AR.
Right.
You could have Jennifer Lopez, shoot a volumetric 3D and stand in front of you and sing the song. Or you could
Right.
have our prime minister. We can shoot his entire video in volumetric 3D, and he can stand right in your house and give his fantastic speeches out. This is something that we also did with Varun Dhawan, for example.
Right.
For his for the movie Three Street Dancer 3D, we actually shot with him. We captured his entire features in volumetric 3D, which
Right.
gives you height, width, depth, all of it together. And then we created an AR character out of it, a real life size AR character out of it. And when you would scan a poster of the movie, Varun Dhawan would come out of the poster and say, "Go watch the movie. It's releasing on 24th of Jan." And this is my hook step of the song.
That's fantastic, man. It sounds very exciting for someone who's interested in new and interesting ways of reaching their audiences for movies, right? Especially, I've seen some great applications in sports and basketball as well. Very very exciting for me to see this getting the kind of traction that it is. Let me stay with the team at Superfan. So, how did you go about building this team? What did you look for in the people that you were looking at bringing on board?
So here's what you're one of the first hires at Superfan. These were all interns, by the way. My entire team
Right,
started off as interns. They have now become their creative guys. They lead creatives for a lot of us, right? So we would go to, let's say, Arena Multimedia, look at folks who were interested in 3D, because 3D becomes a big part of AR.
right,
You pick and choose, some folks from 3D background. Then you go around looking for a lot of people who can draw or design,
right,
or people who can do your UI, right? Because when you are making a filter, for example, tripling, UI becomes a very very important part of it. So you need a lot
absolutely,
of illustrators, right? And while these two are happening, you could also look at somebody who has learned, say, Unity game development, because that person can help you write a lot of complex scripts to make a multi-trigger lens or a filter. That's something that, again, we have an example where we did some work with Puma. You would have rays coming out from your eyes, and there would be the sneakers falling from the sky, and those rays
right.
would actually collect all the sneakers from the sky. Right,
Wow.
so that is a complex script that you will have to write. That is what a Unity developer would do. And then finally, you would really need somebody who is on the customer side of it, who really thinks of ideas, who understands all the platforms, all the possibilities of the platforms, has had the audacity to go in and try each and every platform out, no matter how long it has taken that person. You install your Spark AR, you install your Lens Studio, you do Web AR, you do Deep AR, you do Eighth Wall, you do a lot of these things. You get your hands dirty with it, so you really know what is
Wait,
the
what's eighth wall?
so Eighth Wall is a company which provides tools to create AR on the web.
Right,
So when you do AR, or it's called Web AR, when you do AR on the web, you really do not have to rely on a lot of applications, and
right.
it can happen just within the browsers.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, I've seen some examples of that.
yes,
But
yeah,
eighth wall is an interesting name for a
yeah.
company, though.
So it's very very interesting. So you do get your hands dirty with it, and when you do that thing, you understand what tool provides what platform provides what, and then when you go to a customer, when you're hashing out the ideas, you exactly can tell the customer, saying that this is going to work. These are the challenges in these platform. These are the positives of these platform. This is what your customers would like, but this is what your bosses would like.
Right.
This is what will get you the awards.
And that's very important also.
Yeah, it's important, right? Believe me,
Absolutely.
I mean, I can be really honest about this, though I'll get a lot of flack for it, but so be it. Everybody does AR because it can win them awards.
Definitely. I think, except for tripling, because we never entered those into awards. We did it because we believed in it.
Yeah.
But I know what you're talking about. A lot of people try out innovation from a fame perspective more than an impact
Impact,
perspective, and that
yes.
kind of leads me to my next question. But before I get there, let me sum this up. So the kind of people that you looked at were people who could do 3D, people who could write code, complex code, on specifically on smartphone platforms or mobile platforms, and on the web. You also looked at bringing in people who had the hustle and the drive to try and figure out new things,
Yes.
because I think there is still a lot to learn
Yeah,
for from
every
a
day, every
young
day.
person's perspective,
Every
right?
day, right?
Uh,
I'll give you, so sorry, I'll give you one more perspective, right?
sure.
One of the things that will soon come out is, and I believe that is the future, is adding machine learning to augmented reality. So you're already using your
Right.
camera. Your phones already use the camera. Your phones already see objects. Now it's not going to take longer for somebody to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and train the objects which the camera sees, and then say what object it is.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
that,
that's already happening. Like computer
yeah,
vision and
computer vision
image.
and all of it, right? Computer vision, all they are the background of AR. They are the base
Right.
of AR. If you know all of that thing, you can build some fantastic things.
Yeah, I saw a great example of that. I was just researching how technology is being used to track coronavirus and its spread. And there was this example that I saw of a street camera, simply studying through with machine learning and computer vision, studying how people were social distancing and whether they were actually getting in touch with other people or not, whether they were maintaining the 6 foot or not. And the moment they would come within 6 feet of each other, it would blink in a different way. So, and super exciting applications that
I'll
are
give
possible.
you one more anecdote, right? Back
Sure.
in, so LIDAR, LIDAR, or light emitting, distance and ranging, light
Right.
distancing and ranging, or light detection and ranging, is what it is called. Those were the
Right.
cameras which were used in military applications back in 1960s
Right.
for the laser light to see how far the enemy is, and then to strike the
Right.
enemies, right? And that is what Apple has just got onto the iPad. It can scope
Amazing.
your room, and it can tell you where the wall is. So when you're building an AR application, you can exactly put your chairs next to the wall.
Wow.
That is
And
what
I
is
think
commercialization of AR.
absolutely. That consumer application, and not just consumer application from a consumption perspective, but democratizing it in a way that anybody can create it, right?
Yes.
I've had some very smart and enterprising people in my current office also who just got fascinated by it and started building this on their own. And I was just surprised that, hey, this guy till yesterday was a video editor, and now he can develop AR filters right on the same machine. And all it took him was 7 days to try and just play around with it and start getting comfortable with the technology. And it was really surprising at how consumer friendly, how creator friendly this has really become. Let me ask you this, and it's a question that it's a little philosophical in a way. I was reading this article about how ideology was the first AR, right? It's how we fill the gaps in our own perceptions of reality, and how we use our own filters already, right? There's also this whole fear that is around application of technology in our daily lives. If any of my listeners have tuned into Black Mirror, especially in the later seasons, you see the sort of doomsday scenario being built up about technology. But all of that sort of aside, what do you see? Where do you see mass adoption for AR happening? Right? How does it become a more useful, more important part of how we see it play out in daily life? What are your thoughts about that?
So I really see this in education, AR. I really see AR becoming really, really huge in changing our shopping habits. Uh, so
Right.
think about this, right? You have just moved into a new home. you only have walls around the home and nothing else. Now you need to shop for the furniture. In a normal scenario, you would call a carpenter,
Right.
scope out end to end inches of the entire room, then go to, say pepperfry.com and order the right dimensions of the furniture that you have. Now imagine this. With AR, you have it already tells you what's the size of your room, using obviously a lot of camera technologies. Then in your AR kit, which is the AR version for iOS, as
Right.
which will come in your iPad, in your iPhone, you have these 3D objects. Those 3D objects can be moved in real time. You can place it, and when you zoom in or zoom out, or make it bigger or smaller, it identifies, or it says, okay, now that the stool is 16 meters wide or 4 meters short or whatever it is, right? It gives you that perfect dimensions. You place it. You can take a photograph of it. You can share it with your parents, whoever you are staying with, and then figure out if that is something
You
that
can
you would
send it to
want
your
to buy,
friends, tell them about your
and directly
plans.
send it out to, say, somebody like a Pepperfry, who, by looking at that model, that dimensions, that etc., everything, probably exactly know what you really need to do, and someday, using AR, they can just 3D print out and ship it to you in less than 2 days.
Absolutely, absolutely. That sounds insane, right? And someday when 3D printers get democratized and I have a 3D printer in my house, I will just print it out for myself, right? It's
Yeah, you could.
amazing. I think it's a technology that has so many applications.
While you saying 3D, and now that you bought a 3D printer, I just read this article in Dubai. They've actually made a building just build with 3D printed items. That's it. They've actually made an entire building via that.
Insane. That's insane, man. I think it's important that we keep plugging new technologies and plugging them in and out of each other and seeing what possibilities exist. Because more and more, and especially after this sort of coronavirus semicolon that it has put on all things live and real and tactile, it is these technologies that give me a lot of hope. They give me a lot of excitement for the future as well. Hardik, my last question to you. It's something that I ask all my guests who are part of this, who make time and be part of this podcast. What would be one recommendation from your end to my listeners about a piece of entertainment? And I would press you for something within AR that's really close to you, that really hits home, that my listeners can check out to get a feel for it for themselves.
I would ask everybody to go to Salman Khan's Instagram page or Instagram
Right.
handle. You would ideally see three icons there on his profile. The first one is essentially all his post. The last one will be all the posts that he's tagged on. There will be a middle one which will be like a face icon. If you click
Yeah.
onto it, you will see the one filter that we've created for him, and you can try it out, and you can see, you can become a Chulbul Pandey yourself. I would also take this opportunity to tell all your listeners that, listen, if you guys are thinking of a career in AI, reach out to us. We are always hiring. Send us an email to hello@superfan.ai, and we are always open to have a conversation around AR. We are always looking for talent. If you are in AR, believe me, even if you're a 3D guy, we are looking at you. If you're an illustrator, we are looking at you. If you're a coder, we're looking at you. If you understand machine learning, we are still looking at you.
Right.
So yes, in these situations when a lot of people are saying the job industry has been hit, yes, it has been hit, but it's time to reskill yourself, upskill yourself, and put all that you've learned into use, where it's a finished product and not just a part of a product.
That's fantastic. That's hello@superfan.ai. Please do reach out to Hardik. I couldn't recommend Superfan enough. It's something that I recommend to people who work with me, to my clients, doing some truly, truly amazing work in the AR space. Hardik, with that, we kind of come to an end to this Not an Interview. While you and I keep chatting, this is Vineet Kanabar saying goodbye on this episode of Storytellers and Storytellers. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I hope you enjoyed that show. We'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money. Do definitely check out our social media accounts. We've been doing some really cool stuff over there. There are a bunch of recommendations from hosts. I think you'll really enjoy the content that we're putting out there. And make sure you don't miss your favorite shows. Cyrus has been putting out some great stuff, as is the Pragati podcast, all about policy, has been doing some really, really fun stuff. The guys at Football Shitball and Football Twaddle are continuing to release episodes as well, which are really interesting. Paisa Vaisa Anupam's been having guest after guest, just killing it. Puliabazi's been doing so well. Postcards from Nowhere. All these shows are really, really doing well and really, really putting out great stuff. Appreciate the efforts that the hosts are putting in the lockdown. And thanks for listening, and we hope to catch you again next week.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Vaisa, the show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Vaisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.